3 days after I installed a simple backyard fence, my neighbor called the city and said I was illegally blocking her view. She demanded I tear it down immediately. She even threatened to sue me if I didn't remove it within 48 hours. So I did exactly what she asked. I removed the fence and replaced it with 60 feet of bulletproof glass. What happened after that didn't just shock her, it changed the entire neighborhood. And by the end of this story, the same neighbor who demanded I remove my fence ended up paying me rent every single month. Before we get into it, if you enjoy stories about entitled neighbors and Karen moments that completely backfire, make sure to hit like and subscribe to Karen Stories Daily. It helps the channel a lot, and we post new stories just like this all the time. Alright, let's get into it. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood in the US. The kind of place where every house has a decent backyard, kids ride bikes in the street, and most neighbors mind their own business. Most of them. But every neighborhood has that one person. In my case, her name was Diane. Now Diane had lived next door for about 8 years before I bought my house. From what other neighbors told me, she had a reputation. She complained about everything. Grass too long, dogs barking, someone parking slightly too close to her driveway. She once filed a complaint with the HOA because someone's wind chimes were emotionally stressful. I wish I was joking, but I didn't really do any of that when I moved in. The first few weeks were actually peaceful. Then one afternoon I decided to install a backyard fence. Nothing crazy. Just a standard 6-foot wooden privacy fence along the property line. I work from home and I wanted a little privacy while sitting outside. Completely normal. Completely legal. I even checked the local regulations before building it. The permit was approved. The fence height was within the limit. Everything was done by the book. 2 days after the fence went up, I heard a loud knock at my front door. When I opened it, Diane was standing there with her arms crossed. She didn't say hello. Her first words were, "That fence needs to come down." I honestly thought she was joking. I said sorry. She pointed toward the backyard like it had personally offended her. "You built that fence without asking me." I tried to stay polite. "Well, it's on my property, and it's within the legal height." She shook her head. "It blocks my view." Now this confused me, because our backyards face a row of trees and a small hill. There's no ocean view, no lake view, nothing special, just trees. I said, "I'm not sure what view you're talking about." Diane sighed dramatically. "I've enjoyed an open view from my backyard for years. That fence ruins it." I explained that the fence was on my property line and fully permitted, but she didn't want to hear it. "If you don't remove it," she said, "I'll report you to the city." Then she turned around and walked away like the conversation was over. I figured that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 3 days later, a city inspector showed up at my house. Apparently, Diane had filed an official complaint claiming my fence was illegal. The inspector walked around the yard, measured the fence, checked the permit paperwork, and then shrugged. "Everything looks fine," he told me. "Fully compliant." I thanked him and thought that would settle it, but Diane wasn't done. Over the next 2 weeks, she complained constantly. Every time I stepped into my backyard, she would appear on her patio. "You're ruining the neighborhood," she shouted one day. Another time she said, "People move here for open views, not wooden walls." At one point, she even told another neighbor that my fence was lowering property values. That's when I started realizing something. Diane wasn't upset about the fence. She was upset that she couldn't see into my backyard anymore. Before the fence, our yards were completely visible to each other. Now she couldn't watch what I was doing, and apparently that bothered her a lot. Then things escalated. One afternoon, I received a certified letter. It was from Diane, through a lawyer. The letter claimed my fence interfered with her established visual access to the natural landscape, and she demanded I remove it within 48 hours. Otherwise, she would pursue legal action. I read the letter twice. Then I started laughing, because legally, she had no case. None. The letter gave me an idea. A very interesting idea. Technically, she didn't want a fence blocking her view. So what if the fence didn't block her view? A week later, I contacted a local contractor who specialized in custom installations. When I told him what I wanted, he stared at me for a few seconds. "You're serious?" he asked. "Completely." He scratched his head. That's going to be expensive. I smiled. That's fine. 3 weeks later, construction began. The wooden fence came down, and in its place, something very unusual started going up. 60 feet of thick, transparent ballistic glass panels. Each panel was framed in black steel. They were crystal clear. Technically, they were a fence, but they didn't block the view at all. You could see straight through them. When Diane first noticed the installation, she rushed outside. "What are you doing?" she shouted over the noise of the workers. I calmly said, "Fixing the problem." She looked confused. Then she saw the glass panels being lifted into place. Her face changed immediately. "That's ridiculous," she said. I shrugged. "You said the fence blocked your view. This one doesn't." For the first time since I moved in, she didn't have a response. But that wasn't the best part. The best part came later. Because once the glass fence was installed, something interesting happened. Diane spent a lot of time staring through it. A lot. Almost every afternoon she would sit on her patio looking directly into my backyard, watching, observing everything I did. At first I ignored it, but after a while it became obvious. She was basically using my yard like her personal entertainment. So one evening I walked out with a measuring tape and a small sign. The next morning Diane saw something new attached to the glass panels. A clean, professional-looking sign that read, "Premium Backyard Viewing Area, Monthly Access $50. When she read it, she stormed over immediately. "What is this supposed to mean?" I stayed completely calm. "Well, you enjoy the view so much, I figured I should charge admission." Her face turned bright red. "You can't charge me to look at your yard." I shrugged. "I'm not charging you to look. I'm charging for the premium viewing experience through my custom glass fence." A couple neighbors nearby heard the conversation and started laughing. Diane looked like she was about to explode. "This is harassment," she snapped. I replied calmly, "Actually, it's a joke. But if you'd prefer, I can reinstall the wooden fence." She paused, because if the wooden fence came back, she'd lose the view again. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Then she stormed back to her house. Over the next few weeks, the glass fence became the most talked about thing in the neighborhood. Neighbors would walk by just to look at it. Some even asked where I got the idea. And every time Diane stepped outside, she had to see that sign. Eventually, she tried to complain to the HOA. But the HOA reviewed the installation and confirmed it followed every rule. Height limit, compliant. Property line, correct. Materials, allowed. There was nothing they could do. But the real twist came about a month later. One afternoon, Diane knocked on my door again. This time, she looked different, less angry, more awkward. "I want to talk," she said. I invited her to sit on the porch. After a few seconds of silence, she said something I didn't expect. "People keep coming by to look at your fence." "That's true," I said. She sighed. "My backyard used to be private." I raised an eyebrow. "And now everyone walking past can see straight through the glass into my yard." Suddenly it clicked. The glass fence didn't block views from either side, so now the whole street could see into her yard too. And Diane hated that. She finally asked the question she had probably been thinking about for weeks. "Would you consider installing something that gives me privacy again?" I smiled slightly. "You mean like a wooden fence?" She looked down. "Yes, but there was a problem. Because technically, the glass fence was exactly what she demanded. A fence that didn't block the view." So I told her the truth. I'd consider modifying it. Her face lit up. "Really? Sure," I said. "But custom materials and labor aren't cheap." She nodded slowly. "How much?" I thought for a moment. "Well, if you'd like privacy panels added on your side, I could do that." She asked the question carefully. "What would it cost?" I replied, "About $50 a month." She stared at me. Then she realized what I had just done. The exact same amount as the viewing sign. For a few seconds, she didn't say anything. Then she sighed. "Fine." And that's how the neighbor who demanded I remove my fence ended up paying me every month to block her own view. A few weeks later, I had privacy panels installed on her side of the glass fence. From my yard, everything still looked clean and modern. From her side, it worked like a normal fence. Peace finally returned to the neighborhood. Diane stopped complaining. The HOA stopped getting phone calls. And every month, a small envelope showed up in my mailbox. $50. For the view she insisted on having. Honestly, I don't even care about the money. But the lesson stuck. Sometimes the best way to deal with an entitled neighbor isn't arguing. It's giving them exactly what they asked for. If you enjoyed this story, let me know in the comments what you would have done in the same situation. Would you have kept the wooden fence or installed the glass one like I did? And if you know someone who deals with neighbors like this, share this video with them. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Karen Stories Daily for more unbelievable stories just like this one.